Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at it's a huge shift in how we approach well-being.
A monumental one,
It
really.
is, because the whole era of one-size-fits-all self-improvement, the generic advice, the routines you borrow from someone else's book, that's officially over.
It's not just outdated, it's actually inefficient if you're trying to perform at your best.
Which is why we're doing this deep dive into the new standard, precision self-care.
That's the core of it. Precision self-care is all about moving from generalized effort to a really targeted individual strategy.
And data is what makes that possible.
Exactly. It's the data. We're finally able to leverage tools like AI and personal metrics from wearables. Think about all the data streaming from, an Oura Ring or a Whoop band.
So the big difference isn't just what you do, but how you know it's working for you specifically.
You're using objective biological feedback as your personal operating manual.
I like that. Operating manual.
Yeah, the whole mission is to stop following these external rules and start listening to your own inner data. We're not just trying to be, say, less stressed. We're optimizing measurable outcomes.
Like what specifically?
Like the quality of your deep sleep, or your energy levels through the day, or how long you can actually stay in a state of deep focus.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've pulled out 4 key pillars from all the sources we looked at. And what's really clear is that the big theme, the thing that runs through all of them, is sustainability over intensity.
Right. It's not about how hard you can push anymore.
Not at all. It's about how long you can last. And we're going to start with the most practical side of that, productivity. So it feels like the big, grand New Year's resolution is finally, mercifully dead.
It seems that way.
Our analysis shows that the most searched productivity strategy this year is something much more subtle. It's called habit stacking.
And that signals a huge move away from these massive life overhauls and toward tiny, sustainable adjustments.
So how does habit stacking actually work? Its power seems to be in how it deals with cognitive load and just inertia.
That's exactly the friction cost. Most people fail at a new habit because just the act of deciding to start it takes up mental energy.
Right.
Stacking is this elegant solution where you just attach a new microhabit onto a behavior you already do automatically.
Okay, so give us a concrete example. How would you structure a successful stack?
The formula is pretty straightforward. You anchor the new habit to an old one. So, for instance, after I pour my morning coffee, which is your existing automatic habit.
That's the thing you do without thinking.
Yes. I will write down my top 3 priorities for the day. That's the new habit. The momentum from the first one just carries the new one along with it. You've eliminated the need for willpower.
And this is where the precision part comes back in. If you're tracking your data with a wearable, why does lowering that cognitive load matter so much?
Because it directly impacts your biological resources. If your wearable shows your heart rate variability is inconsistent or you're taking a long time to fall asleep, it's telling you your system is strained.
So you're burning through your willpower reserve.
You are. Habit stacking kind of bypasses that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that has a finite supply of willpower. It automates the change, builds new neural pathways.
And the change becomes subconscious.
Right. So you're conserving all that valuable mental energy for the big stuff, for high-leverage tasks, instead of wasting it trying to force yourself to start a simple routine.
That idea of conserving mental energy is so critical, but it feels like it's constantly being drained by outside forces.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us to our next pillar, mental resilience. In this age of constant pings and notifications, the digital detox is it's less of a wellness trend and more of a survival tool now.
It really is about reclaiming your attention. Our sources are showing this massive surge in people setting very concrete boundaries with their tech.
This isn't just turning your phone off when you feel like it.
No, it's about institutionalizing it. Things like phone-free mornings or planning a full analog Sunday. The goal of this kind of tech sabbatical is to fundamentally reset the brain's reward system.
Because it's been so overstimulated by the high dopamine hits from short-form content.
Exactly. That constant stimulation keeps your nervous system in this low-grade state of alert, and it just drains your capacity for deep, complex thought.
But the technique that I found most interesting wasn't just about removing the noise. It was about intentionally creating space. The sources call them boredom windows.
Yes. That's a critical piece. For the modern brain, boredom can feel almost terrifying. But neuroscientists will tell you that's where creativity and high-level problem-solving actually happen.
How does that work?
When you deny the brain that constant external stimulation, it shifts into what's called the default mode network. And that's where your mind consolidates memories, plans for the future, and connects different ideas together.
I can hear people asking, though, how can doing nothing possibly make me more productive?
The outcome is so tangible.
Mm.
When you force these periods of non-stimulation, these boredom windows, you allow your dopamine baseline to normalize. It resets.
And that stability is key for focus.
It's crucial. People who actually do this report a huge increase in their ability to do deep work. And just as important, a big boost in emotional resilience because they stop being so reactive to every digital ping. They're building a stronger internal regulation system.
And building that internal strength is, of course, tied to our physical resources, too. So let's shift to the body. There's a really interesting transition happening in physical self-care. We're moving away from the aesthetic anti-aging idea and toward this function-focused longevity mindset.
The goal has matured. It's not just about trying to look younger anymore. It's about extending your health span, living healthier for longer.
And this mindset seems to be bringing some, let's say, fringe biohacking techniques into the mainstream.
It is. We're seeing things like cold exposure, ice baths, and heat therapy like saunas being used really strategically. But the key here is that it isn't random discomfort. It's about the dose-response relationship.
Explain that. Why is deliberately stressing your body with extreme temperatures a good thing?
It's a principle called hormesis. You're introducing a controlled, short-term stress that forces your body's internal systems to adapt and get stronger.
Okay, so what's happening on a cellular level?
Cold exposure can trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, basically creating more energy factories in your cells. And heat increases what are called heat shock proteins, which help with cellular repair. When you do this strategically, and then use your wearable data to make sure you're recovering properly, you can significantly improve your metabolic health and lower chronic inflammation.
That focus on inflammation leads us to what is, for me, the most fascinating part of this, gut-brain synchrony.
It's a game changer.
We're finally understanding that the conversation between our mind and body is, well, it's literally happening in our gut.
It's a profound shift. The realization that mental health isn't separate from your digestive system. It's deeply and bidirectionally tied to your microbiome.
You're talking about the vagus nerve, right? That information highway.
That's the one. And what's wild is that 80 to 90% of the signals on that highway travel up from the gut to the brain, influencing everything from your mood to how you respond to stress.
So the bacteria in our gut are basically co-piloting our neurochemistry.
They absolutely are. They produce a huge portion of the body's neurotransmitters, including serotonin. So if your gut microbiome is out of balance, that chemical communication breaks down. And that can show up as anxiety or poor sleep or brain fog.
Which means the fix here isn't necessarily some high-tech gadget.
Exactly. It's much more fundamental. A balanced gut is becoming the new foundation for a balanced mind. The real self-care staples here are things like getting more diverse fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, and making sure your diet is high in fiber. You're literally feeding the infrastructure that manages your psychological state.
That bridge from gut health to psychological state is a perfect lead-in to our fourth and final pillar, emotional resilience. For so long, the conversation was about identifying and avoiding our triggers, the things that cause us stress.
Right, a very defensive posture.
Exactly. But the new movement is focusing on intentionally cultivating the opposite of a trigger.
We're moving from a constant emotional defense to a kind of active psychological offense. And the core concept here is something called glimmers.
Glimmers, so they're the antithesis of triggers.
Precisely. They are these small, momentary, micro experiences of joy or safety or connection that send a signal to your nervous system that it can relax, that it can exit that threat state.
What's an example of a glimmer?
Oh, it could be anything. The sound of rain, the smell of coffee brewing, a quick moment of eye contact with your dog, tiny things.
I like the emphasis on safety. It's like you're giving your nervous system real-time data that you are fundamentally... Okay, so how do you practice this? Is there a technique?
Yes, it's called glimmer hunting. It's a very personalized mindfulness practice. Instead of just trying to be present in some abstract way, you're actively scanning your environment for these little micro joys.
So you're looking for evidence of well-being.
You are. You're noticing them, cataloging them, acknowledging them. And that acknowledgement is the key step because it shifts your brain's focus away from its default threat detection mode.
It sounds simple, but what's the therapeutic outcome of collecting these tiny positive moments?
The clinical application is actually huge. Glimmer hunting is becoming mainstream because it's a sustainable way to combat two of the most common modern problems, chronic burnout and high-functioning anxiety. By deliberately stacking these little moments, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system. It becomes this internal antidote to the constant pressure of modern life. You're building up a regulatory muscle that you can use when real stress inevitably hits. So if we pull back and look at these four pillars together, you have habit stacking, the digital detox, the longevity mindset with that gut-brain piece, and glimmers. There's a really clear unifying thread here.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them, these specific personalized methods, they all share that same goal of sustainable performance. They're all systems designed to work without needing that volatile energy source of just brute force motivation.
Absolutely. And I think the ultimate takeaway for you, our listener, is that this shift is pretty much mandatory for high performance now. The most successful people aren't the ones who are just masters of time management.
Right, trying to cram more into an already exhausted system.
Yes, they're the ones who prioritize energy management. It's all about making sure your physical and mental resources can sustainably support everything you're trying to do. That's the real heart of precision self-care.
And that brings us to a final thought. If you are starting to leverage all of this new data from the objective numbers on your wearable telling you about your sleep scores, to the subjective evidence from glimmer hunting telling you what cues safety, it all comes back to a very personal reflection point.
Okay.
Considering all those unique data points we just discussed, what is your unique inner data telling you needs optimizing most right now? Where is your greatest point of friction or depletion? Focus your precision efforts there first.